Around the World Lit Audio. Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Episode 3, Part 2, The Exile, the Missionaries, and the New Religion. Full narration script. Channel intro. Welcome to Around the World Lit Audio, the greatest stories ever told, from every corner of the world, in English. New chapter every week, free to listen. Chapter recap. In Episode 2, the oracle spoke about Ikemefuna and Okonkwo killed the boy he loved because he was afraid to appear weak. He did not eat for 2 days. Obierika told him. The oracle said the boy should die. It did not say you should kill him. Nwoye felt the truth without being told and something broke in him. Ezema fell ill and Chilo took her in the night, and Okonkwo followed in the dark and said nothing. The Egwagu sat in judgment with the authority of the ancestors, and the dignity of a system that worked. Then the gun at Ezuda's funeral killed the man's son, and Okonkwo had 1 night to pack and leave. The compound burned. He walked into the night thinking, I am not my father, but this is what happens to me anyway. Episode 3, Part 2, The Exile, the Missionaries, and the New Religion. Part 2, Mbanta. Okonkwo came to Mbanta. Mbanta was his mother's village, the village of Uchendu, his mother's brother, an old man of considerable dignity and genuine wisdom, who received his nephew with the specific warmth of someone who understands that the arrival of a man in exile is both a practical matter and a spiritual one, and who attends to both. Uchendu gave Okonkwo land to farm and a place to live. He gave him the material requirements of survival without ceremony, not because the arrival was unimportant, but because the important thing was not to dwell on the humiliation, but to provide the conditions in which recovery was possible. Then he spoke to Okonkwo. He gathered the family and he said to his nephew, You think you are the greatest sufferer in the world. Do you know how many men have lost everything they built, by fire, by flood, by war, by the malice of others? Okonkwo, you are not alone. Do you know why we say that mother is supreme? Okonkwo did not answer. Uchendu said, A man belongs to his fatherland when things are good, and life is sweet. But when there is sorrow and bitterness, he finds refuge in his motherland. Your mother is there to protect you. She is buried here. And that is why we say that mother is supreme. Be a man. You have a whole year to mourn. After that you must be up and doing. Okonkwo heard this. He did not internalize it. He was not a man who could internalize gentleness, who could receive the gift of his mother's land without feeling it as diminishment rather than refuge. He farmed with the same determination he had always farmed, harder than anyone around him, with the specific intensity of someone who is proving something even in exile, even in reduced circumstances. But his heart was not in it. His heart was in Umuofia. He thought about what he was missing. He counted the years. 7 years of exile meant 7 harvests, 7 new yam festivals, 7 years of his prime during which the men, who had been his equals or his inferiors in Umuofia were accumulating titles and influence while he was here, farming borrowed land in his mother's village. He was also thinking about his son. Nwoye had come to Mbanta with him, had come because there was nowhere else to go, because the family went where Okonkwo went. But Nwoye was not the son Okonkwo needed him to be. He had always been too gentle, too sensitive, to incline toward the things that Okonkwo considered weakness. The death of Ikemefuna had not improved this. The death of Ikemefuna had, in fact, completed the process that had been happening in Nwoye for years, had confirmed for him that the world of his father's values, the world of the Egwagu and the titles and the masculine achievement, was a world that required the killing of people you loved in order to prove you were not soft. He wanted no part of it. He did not say this to Okonkwo. He said nothing to Okonkwo about anything, if he could help it. The Missionaries. In the 2nd year of Okonkwo's exile, something arrived in Mbanta. 6 men arrived, not the kind of men who arrived with trade goods, or with the authority of a neighboring clan, but a strange kind, men, who carried no weapons and spoke in a foreign language through an interpreter, who said they had come with a message from a god Mbanta had never heard of. They were missionaries, Christian missionaries from the colonial mission, and the interpreter, the man who translated their message into Igbo, was himself Igbo, which was the most disorienting part of the encounter, the thing that made it impossible to simply categorize these men as foreigners and dismiss them. They asked for a piece of land, on which to build a church. The elders of Mbanta conferred. They gave the missionaries the evil forest. The evil forest was the place where all the things the community could not contain were put, where the bodies of those who died from swelling diseases were buried, where the Asu, the outcasts, lived, where the objects of power and of evil were deposited. The elders gave it to the missionaries with the specific satisfaction of people who have found an elegant solution to a difficult problem. If the missionaries built on the evil forest, they would be destroyed by the powers that lived there within 4 days, and the community would be rid of them without having committed any violence. The missionaries built on the evil forest. They were not destroyed in 4 days. This was the fact that could not be assimilated, the fact that the evil forest had not destroyed them. that the powers of the forest had not acted, that the missionaries were still there after 4 days and after 7 days and after a month, preaching their message in the forest that should have killed them. People began to wonder, not everyone, not the majority, but the question had been introduced, if the evil forest did not destroy the missionaries, what did this mean about the powers of the evil forest? What did it mean about the system of understanding that had assigned the forest its power in the first place? The missionaries said, it means nothing happened because our God is the true God, and the other gods have no power. This was not how the community heard it. But something had shifted. Nwoye and the new religion. Nwoye heard the missionaries. He went to listen, not because he was seeking, exactly, but because the wound that Ikemefuna's death had opened in him had never closed, and the specific quality of the missionaries' message landed in that wound with the precision of something that had been aimed at it. The missionaries sang. They sang a hymn, simple, repetitive, with the specific quality of music that is designed to be accessible. That does not require training to join. Nwoye heard it and felt something happen inside him that he could not fully name, but that was related to the thing he had been waiting for since the day Ikemefuna died, a different account of the world, one in which the killing of someone you loved was not a necessary proof of strength, in which there was another way. He began going to the church. He was not the first, the outcasts had come first, the Asu who had nothing to lose in the existing system, and everything to gain from a system that said all men were equal before God. Then some of the Ifulefu, the worthless men, the men who had failed by the community's existing measures, had come. Then some others. And Nwoye. Okonkwo found out. He found out in the specific way that fathers find out about the things their children have done that are exactly what they feared, through someone else, through a neighbor who had seen Nwoye at the church, through information that arrived already shaped as a confirmation of the worst thing Okonkwo had been trying not to believe about his son. He grabbed Nwoye by the throat. He held him and demanded to know where he had been, and Nwoye said nothing, and Okonkwo's hands tightened and his uncle Uchendu came and separated them, and Nwoye left. He left the compound and went to the missionaries and did not come back. Okonkwo thought about Nwoye. He thought about him with the specific mixture of fury and grief that parents feel when they have lost a child, not to death but to a different vision of the world, one that the parent cannot access and cannot counter, one that has offered the child exactly what the parent's world could not. He thought, I have lost him. He thought, I have been cursed with a son who is my father. This is the comparison that the novel has been building toward. Okonkwo, who feared becoming his father, watching his son become everything he considered weakness, which was also everything his father had been. The circle was completing itself in the next generation. He withdrew into himself. He farmed. He waited for the exile to end. The messenger from Umuofia, Obierika, came from Umuofia. He came with news, and the news was about what had happened in Okonkwo's absence, what the missionaries had done there, what the colonial government had established, how much had changed in the years since the gun had gone off at Ezuda's funeral. The missionaries had come to Umuofia too. They had come with the same message, and had been given not the evil forest but actual land on which they had built a church and a school. They had more converts in Umuofia than in Mbanta. And with the church had come the colonial government, the district commissioner, the court messengers, the specific apparatus of colonial administration that operated according to laws that Umuofia did not recognize and had not consented to. He said, the white man is very clever. He came quietly and peaceably with his religion. We were amused at his foolishness and allowed him to stay. Now he has won our brothers, and our clan can no longer act as one. He has put a knife on the things that held us together, and we have fallen apart. Okonkwo listened. He was thinking, I should have been there. He was thinking, if I had been there, this would not have happened the way it happened. He could not have stopped the missionaries. He was not under the illusion that his presence would have been sufficient to reverse a historical force. But he would have resisted. He would have said what needed to be said. He would not have watched passively while the things that held Umuofia together were being cut. He had been in exile. He had been in exile counting harvests while the world he had built his identity around was being transformed into something he did not recognize. He thought, when I return, I will show them how it is done. He thought about fire. He thought, if a man comes into my hut and defecates on my floor, what do? Do I shut my eyes? No. I take a stick and break his head. That is what a man does. Uchendu heard him talking this way and said nothing. He was an old man and he knew that some things could not be argued with, not because they were right but because the person holding them was holding them with a grip that argument could not loosen. The return. The end of part 2. The 7 years ended. Okonkwo returned to Umuofia. He returned not in the triumphant way he had planned. The great return, the rebuilt compound, the re-establishment of his position, but in the diminished way of someone who has been away for 7 years and has found that the world does not hold the shape you left it in. He built a compound. He planted yams. He paid for the title ceremonies he had missed. He did the practical work of reinsertion into a community. But the community he returned to was not the community he had left. The church was there. The school was there. The court was there. The court messengers, called Kotma by the people, men who wore black clothes and acted with the authority of the colonial government, moved through the village with a quality of power that was new and that Umuofia's existing structures could not fully counter. His son was not there. Nwoye had gone to the mission school, had been baptized, had taken a Christian name. He was studying at a mission school in another part of the country, becoming something that Okonkwo did not have a name for and that he could not reach. Ezemo was there, his daughter, the child of his heart, the one whose intelligence and spirit he had always wished had been born in a son, had grown into a woman of remarkable beauty and presence. Young men came from all over to seek her hand. Okonkwo had plans for her marriage, plans that would help re-establish his position in Umuofia. Ezemo understood her father. She understood him with the specific understanding of a child who has paid close attention to a parent for a long time and has decoded the patterns behind the behavior. She agreed to delay her marriage until they returned to Umuofia, understanding that the marriage would serve her father's ambitions as well as her own life. She was the one who understood him. She was also the one he could not talk to, because she was a woman and the world he had built did not have a language for talking to women about the things that mattered. Episode Transition. You have reached the end of Episode 3 of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. The missionaries have come. Nwoye has gone. Okonkwo has returned to a Umuofia that has changed in ways he cannot reverse and will not accept. In the final episode, Part 3, the colonial government moves to control what it cannot understand, and Okonkwo makes the decision that the novel has been moving toward from the first page. Episode 4 is available next week. Subscribe to Around the World Lit Audio so you never miss a chapter. A new episode arrives every week.